Before we go into the details, I think it's best I give a quick overview of what happens. So when you type npm start on the terminal, npm goes to package.json file in your project directory. Inside package.json, it looks into the scripts object, and inside the scripts object, it looks for the key start. And then it gets the value of start, which is React script start, and executes that. When it executes React script start, what React script start basically does is it compiles and bundles our project code and starts the development server, which is listening to a specific IP and port. In my case, localhost 3000. What this means is that when someone uses the browser to send a HTTP request to localhost 3000, this server is listening to that request, and when it receives this request, it's going to respond with the bundled files to the browser. This is what happens as an overall. Now let's go in the details. The first thing that you need to understand is that whenever you write any command in the terminal, there's a shell process that receives this command and executes it. In this case, it receives the command npm start. The shell process has no idea how to deal with the command npm. So what it's going to do is it is going to go to the path environment variables, look for an executable named npm. That executable called npm has the code for what to do when you write the command npm start. Okay, so the shell process finds the path for the executable named npm. This file is a small wrapper that points us to the actual CLI implementation. So when the shell process reaches here, it creates a new process, but it creates a new node process. And why is that? It's because of this line over here. This line basically says that, hey, the rest of the code from here needs to be executed in the node environment. So the shell process says, okay, I'll create a new process and I will pass in it the node binary so that the code can be executed in the node environment. So now this new node process will execute the rest of the code. Now the rest of the code being executed by the node process wants to achieve the following. Based on the commands and arguments it has received, it gets the package.json file and sees that start is mapped to React script start. So now it wants to create a new process that runs the command React script start successfully. And in order to achieve that goal, the current process gets information of the current working directory. That is basically where your project is located. And also, our current process adds node modules in the path variables for the new process. Why does it do that? Because when the new process will execute React script start, it will have no clue what it is. So the new process will look in its path variables. Inside path variables, it will find node modules, and node modules has the file React scripts. So inside its path variable, it will find React scripts and it will know what to do with it. So this right here is the piece of code which creates the new process. We just call spawn and pass it all the important information in its parameters. Okay, so now this new process will basically execute the React scripts start command. It's gonna have no idea what to do, what React scripts is. So it's gonna locate React scripts in its path environment variables. And remember, the previous process was the one which added React scripts in the new process's path. So it will be able to find React scripts in its path, and then it's going to tell the operating system to create a new node process whose job is to basically execute the React scripts file. So the new process will also be a node process because, as you can see over here, this is React scripts.js. This is the file that was in the path of the new process. And over here you can see it has node in it. That means the following code expects to be executed in a node environment. That's why this new process will have node binary in it. So this node process fetches the command start and tells the operating system to create another node process which executes start.javascript. I know there's a lot of processes being created. So this is the piece of code. As you can see, spawn means to basically create a new process. And over here, script basically means start. So this means to run the file start to run the file in the folder scripts, and that file is start.js. If we had React scripts build, then this script would be build and we would run the file build in the scripts folder. Now I want to talk a bit about the start.js file being executed. So when a process runs start.js, it loads several packages such as Webpack, Webpack Dev Server, ESLint, Chokidar, and Babel, and each of them serve a different purpose. So let's start with Babel. The job of Babel is to convert React and JSX to browser compatible JavaScript. The job of ESLint is to look for syntax errors. The job of Webpack Dev Server is to basically listen to a certain IP address and port, and whenever an HTTP request is made to that IP address and port, serve the files to the browser. The job of Webpack is to transform the code. It uses loaders like Babel, and it also handles CSS, images, fonts, etc. And then we also have Chokidar. The job of Chokidar is basically that whenever a user makes any change to its code and clicks save, the job of Chokidar is to send an instruction to Webpack to rebundle and recompile and serve the updated code again. One thing to keep in mind is that the files are stored in memory. And that's because if the files are stored in memory, it's faster to reflect the changes made and quickly serve it in the browser. Now, if we had build.javascript, so if we had wrote React scripts build instead of React scripts start, then we would only be running Webpack, ESLint, and Babel. And we won't be running Webpack Dev Server because we are not waiting for any HTTP requests to which we send files as response. But the job here is just to convert the code to browser compatible JavaScript, to convert the code so that it's just ready to be executed. Build.js is used for production and start.js is used for development.